Horace Grant taking issue with the Last Dance docuseries, saying that it's not accurate. It's from one man's point of view. Stephen A., I'm going to start with you here. Do you have a problem with what Horace had to say?
Yes, I do, but I don't have a problem with him coming to his own defense about, accusations that he was talking to Sam Smith. If he's talking about himself directly, he has every right to come to his own defense, especially if he feels like that is a lie. My issue with him was when he intimated that MJ was being a snitch because of mentioning what he had walked into in a hotel room in the early 80s. Jay, Max, don't know if y'all know this, but the NBA was a drug-infested league in the early 80s. Commissioner David Stern is revered and deified as the former commissioner of the National Basketball Association, God rest his soul, because of what he inherited and what he turned the league into. And anybody that covered the NBA from a reportorial perspective, I can tell y'all right now, I'm not going to mention their names. I didn't hear MJ mention their names, but I can assure you everybody knows who those players were on the squad when MJ first arrived in his first 2 years in Chicago. Just look at the roster. And anybody that covered the NBA, even though I came a decade later, we all heard those stories. We know exactly who MJ is talking about because it was widely known. And so when you look at it from that perspective and you're talking about it, again, I have no issue with Horace Grant coming to his own defense. I know that I would have raised up and raised holy hell if I was accused of talking to a reporter and leaking information to that reporter, and I know I'm innocent of that. I have no issue with Horace Grant on that level. But we also got to take into account, and listen, and I've made this point about myself speaking to MJ on several occasions. You know what? I should have been a bit more vivid and a bit more, revealing. He ain't the only person that I've spoken to. It's just that the other players asked not to be mentioned. But I know players that they've said Michael Jordan is doing this documentary and he got money from this. He got like $10 million. Well, Michael Jordan is giving it all away. He isn't getting a dime from this. You have history of players who felt, guess what? Being the billionaire that he is, he should have done more for them. Being the owner for the Charlotte Hornets, he should have hired them or done more for them along those lines. He should have exerted himself and his influence to get them jobs in the NBA, if not with him, with somebody else. These are all the things that are being said by some people who don't want to talk on the record, who don't want to talk on camera, that have an issue with him. So all of those things in their eyes are valid. I understand it. But that doesn't mean that you call him out for being a snitch when he mentioned no names. And, oh, by the way, it was a drug-infested league at the time, and every damn body knows it. And we know exactly what he was dealing with when he first arrived in Chicago, because it was pretty damn bad.
I have no problem with Horace Grant defending himself. None. As I said earlier, Michael Jordan's the greatest athlete of the 20th century. His platform's going to be huge when he wants to tell a story. Horace Grant was an underrated and very good power forward, really very good power forward, and the third best player on a championship dynasty. He'll also have a platform. It won't be nearly what Jordan's is, so he's speaking his truth, as the kids say nowadays, and I got no beef with that. Here's the issue, and this is all personal, obviously, between these two guys. In terms of the basketball, any recounting of Michael Jordan, any close examination, will seem to be a piece of propaganda because, in fact, time has smoothed out Michael Jordan's greatness. People compare Kobe and LeBron and others to Jordan. Jordan was better than them. And any close examination of the record will prove that clearly. Jordan was the greatest of all time. So rather than, well, as time goes on, these guys get mythologized and they seem better than ever. In fact, that's not the case with Jordan. Because when your eyes are on other guys like Kobe or LeBron, you can't imagine anyone's ever been better than them. But he was. And so what Horace Grant and others are reacting to in terms of Jordan's influence on this documentary is personal. It's how they feel it's been spun and how he's depicted personally, which is as no saint. So you imagine he was worse than whatever was depicted, right? And then how Horace Grant and others are depicted personally, and good for Grant for sticking up for himself. One last thing I want to use this time for, guys, because it's come up a couple times, the way Horace Grant was carried off the court when Orlando beat the Bulls that season when Jordan only played 17 games. Remember, that's the only playoff series they lost. I need everyone to stop that. Jordan only played 17 games. When he got back, the Bulls were a 500-ish team, maybe they're 2 or 3 games above 500. They went 13-4 with Jordan in the lineup. He was not in basketball shape. He didn't have his legs by the playoffs. Grant, his power forward, was now on the other team. He needed more help, obviously, Shaq, Penny, Grant, and they got beaten. People are acting, Shaq's even talked about it recently. Well, we got them this year. Stop. They never got Jordan. That was not Jordan. Everyone needs to stop. The next year, when Jordan had an off season, had his legs, the whole thing played a full year, they swept Orlando with Shaq, Penny, and Horace Grant. Swept. Goodbye. So people taking their little victories against Jordan where they can on the court, they got to stop that. Personally, he has every right to defend himself because he feels attacked.